All right, let's just dive right in. We are living through this incredible AI boom, right? But it's on a collision course with a huge problem, our energy grid. So today, we're going to unpack a new framework called the Forerunner Model. And it's built on a pretty radical idea. What if we could power the entire future of computing with the energy we're already throwing away? And this, right here, is the big question. It's the central conflict. AI has this just insatiable hunger for power, which puts it in direct competition with, our homes and our businesses. As these massive data centers demand more and more electricity, they risk serious backlash. They risk becoming a strategic liability. So the question isn't just a technical one. It's about whether this explosive growth is even sustainable. How do we solve this paradox? Okay, so here's our game plan. First, we're going to properly define what this growth grid paradox is. Then, we'll introduce this really powerful metaphor, a courtroom for energy. After that, we'll walk through the three layers of this system that make it all work. And finally, we'll get to the good part, the huge strategic payoff. So let's start with the heart of the problem, the growth grid paradox. You see, traditionally, compute infrastructure has always chased live energy. What that means is it competes for power in real time right now with everyone else. And frankly, that model is broken. It exposes these multi-billion-dollar data centers to crazy price swings and, maybe more importantly, public anger. It turns a technological marvel into a potential threat to the community. This whole situation creates what the model calls the bottleneck of ambiguity, and this is so key. The biggest problem for these infrastructure leaders isn't just that they're using a lot of power, it's their inability to prove they aren't hurting the grid. Without hard proof, they face a political ceiling on their growth. It doesn't matter how innovative their tech is. And this slide really lays out the massive shift that the Forerunner model is talking about. We go from a competitive, even rivalrous relationship with the grid to one that's totally complementary. Our data integrity goes from being based on fuzzy estimates that get politicized to being settled and completely verifiable. And maybe the biggest change of all, public perception flips. Data centers stop being seen as power-starving villains and start being seen as a helpful energy sink for waste. Okay, so this is where the big idea really comes into play. The solution here isn't just another piece of hardware. It's a whole new system for establishing the truth. So I want you to think of it like a courtroom for energy. It's a system designed to deliver a final, undeniable verdict on what energy was truly wasted. This quote just nails it. The strategic failure is not a lack of generation, but a lack of coordination and proof. We often generate more clean energy from wind and solar than the grid can even handle at a given moment. But that power gets wasted because we don't have a system to coordinate its use and, crucially, to prove that it was surplus in the first place. The problem is about information, not just about electrons. So, how does this courtroom actually work? Well, it has three key players. You've got the witness, whose job is to gather the physical evidence. You've got the judge, who delivers a final verdict based on that evidence. And then you have the sink, which executes an action only after that verdict has been delivered. Now, let's see how these three layers of truth are actually built. All right, let's really dig into these three layers of truth. This is the technical architecture that makes that whole courtroom metaphor a reality. This is how we transform all that ambiguity into absolute certainty. So, layer one is our witness. Its technical name is physical evidence integration, or PEI. Now, think about this. A standard meter on the wall only sees electricity when it flows. It's completely blind to energy assets like batteries or backup generators that are fully ready to go but are just sitting there idle. PEI uses simple tools like RFID tags to make these invisible assets visible, recording their physical state of readiness. This layer is basically providing the testimony for our court. It answers the questions that really matter. Was the power source physically available and ready to go? Was it just sitting idle because the grid couldn't take the power? And for exactly how long? This replaces all those vague assumptions with auditable facts. This is the foundational evidence for our case. Next up is layer two, the judge. This is the energy finalization layer, or EFI. And it's a read-only system, which is really important. That means it doesn't control anything in the real world. It simply observes all the evidence brought by the witness, and then, after the fact, it delivers a final judgment certifying that a specific amount of energy was, without a doubt, surplus. And the verdict from our judge, the EFI, it has a name. It's called the Energy Finalization Unit, or EFU. You can think of an EFU as a digital certificate of reality. It is a permanent, non-negotiable record that says, hey, at this time, on this date, this much clean energy was available, but it was wasted. And just like that, it transforms that wasted energy into a verifiable, usable asset. And finally, we get to layer 3, which acts as the sink. This is where the verdict is actually carried out. The sink is a specialized compute environment designed to do heavy-duty work like AI training. But it has one critical, unbreakable rule. It can only be activated by an EFU. It only consumes power that has already been judged and proven to be surplus. This whole system enables something called post-hoc energy usage. It's a fancy term, but it just means the computation happens after the energy event is already over. This is the genius of it. It decouples the immense power demands of AI from the live, moment-to-moment stress on the grid. It's a complete paradigm shift from competing for power to essentially cleaning up wasted power. Okay, so we get the system now, we see how it works, but what's the strategic payoff? Why does this new form of energy justice actually matter for businesses, for communities, for all of us? Well, in today's world, with really strict ESG requirements and a ton of public scrutiny, the new mandate is simple: proof, not claims. Vague promises about sustainability and being green, they just don't cut it anymore. You have to provide verifiable evidence, and this system is designed to do exactly that. The outcomes here are really powerful. First, you totally decouple your growth from stressing out the grid. You also get a reputational shield because you can prove you aren't competing with local needs. What's more, you can go to regulators with hard evidence-based data, not just fuzzy estimates. And finally, this makes things like carbon credits and green hydrogen accounting truly trustworthy and ready for any audit. This, for me, is the ultimate transformation. The entire narrative just flips on its head. A data center is no longer seen as a grid predator that's fighting for scarce resources. Instead, it becomes a stabilizing sink, a productive, valuable tool that helps the grid by absorbing wasted clean energy. It actually makes the whole grid healthier. And this quote just captures the elegance of the solution so perfectly. It's about a fundamental conversion, taking something that would have just vanished, wasted electrons, and turning it into something permanent and valuable, like a fully trained AI model or a secure digital asset. It's incredible. So, to wrap it all up, the Forerunner model isn't trying to change the grid by force. It's not another control system. It simply provides the missing link, a high-integrity framework to observe, judge, and settle what's actually happening out there. It doesn't argue with reality. It just makes reality completely undeniable. And that leaves us with a pretty fascinating final thought, doesn't it? We have always chased new sources of power to fuel our biggest technological ambitions. But what if the biggest, the cleanest, and the most strategic source of energy for the next generation of AI and computing has been here all along, hiding in plain sight as waste?